I've tried green beans before, and I didn't like them the first time. So why Jessup made me try them again? I don't know. I knew I
think you
didn't
were
like them.
prejudiced before because I really feel like when with the face that you made before you even ate them, I think you were
Yeah,
already to that determination.
I don't like the green beans in the beans. Ugh.
Huh?
You don't like the green beans in the beans.
The beans inside the green bean. I don't like them. They're also green.
Green
No.
inside the green beans.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 13 of season 2. We finally have our first full weekend of racing, and we have the usual cast of characters to bring it all down. With myself, Mason, John, Becca, and our inside researcher, Jessup Pelkey. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and also thank you to our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness. Mr. Tyler Hall out of Fresno, Minnesota, developed the Hitch Harness product focusing on two main aspects: safety, so you have safe receiver hitch storage in the back of the trailer, and also efficiency, so you can have quick and easy access and move from one project to the next. So if you head over to hitchharness.com, they have multiple styles to choose from, also multiple colors of your choosing, and also chassis dollars for you racers out there. So check out their inventory on the website. And if you keep in tabs on their Facebook page, you might get a special promotion to get a little bit of a deal throughout the summer race season. And so thank you so much, Tyler, for the support of the podcast, and happy to see you that you were out at the track for this first race of the season at Red River Valley Speedway. And so the lineup is sort of altered, but actually before we get to the lineup, do us a favor if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, give us a like. Tell us hi. Tell us where you're watching from. We love to know who's all watching. We like to give shout outs to people. I know the Holtbergs over in the Bismarck Mandan area watch this quite often. I know John Gartner watches on YouTube, and also out east, the Rents family watches periodically. And so, give us a like. Share the show. We love to see who's all out there watching and love to share it with more people out there. And so getting to the lineup, because last week, as someone would say, we had some carnage. And so we have a different lineup. We have Mr. Jessup Pelkey on the pole. His outside is myself, Mason, followed by Becca and John. So with that lineup, Jessup, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Mason. One thing I want to say is all you listeners out there, wherever you're listening to, wherever you're watching, leave us a 5-star review. And whatever you write, I will read it on air as long as it's responsible, respectable, and not making fun of me.
Oh, I think that making fun of you is a must.
Very good.
A must.
Mm-hmm. Why is it a must?
Because your hairline is thinning.
Yeah. You wonder why?
Old. Getting old.
This is like the reverse mohawk.
It's actually kind of a cool look. I don't mind it.
That's okay. The only bad part is I'm starting to look like John.
No, it looks like you have a toupee. Just on top.
No toupee. It's actual hair, but it's not much there anymore.
This is how we get off track. Becca, how are you doing?
Dying.
She's dying.
She had a green bean tonight, folks. Becca is
just dying. She had to have green beans and she's just dying.
No, John, a green bean.
Oh, a one green bean. From there, she's dying.
John, how are you doing tonight?
I am not dying.
How about you, Mason?
I'm great. I just want to say, Becca, we're also very proud of you and your overcoming your fear of food.
She's having an adventurous outlook on her food eating habits now.
No, I'm sick. So I got a sore throat last weekend, Friday during the races, went to bed, and I literally slept all of Saturday. Jessup can
Were you
attest to this.
were you growling too much on the mic?
No, I wasn't even on the mic. Thank God. Probably. I probably would sound even worse or feel worse, but so I'm on the upswing. I sound and feel better for the most part. But oh, come on.
Oh,
Oh,
a
you
caution
were
flag.
on the mic. I think you
Bro,
did Victory Lane interviews and you also cut in with other statistics throughout the night.
fine,
Can confirm as
whatever.
I listened to the entire DSTV broadcast. Can
Yep, so see,
confirm.
Whatever.
we're confirmed. That is for sure a caution flag on Becca.
Well. Becca
And just
to
like
the
that, she's no
tail.
longer she's no longer in third, she's now the tail.
Must have
There
been
we
green
go.
bean. Just
You,
a slip in judgment of error
Tail.
there.
you, tail.
Well, I'm glad that we're all here present for this episode because we have a lot
And
to
there's
talk
three
about.
of us, and there's three of us that are not dying.
Three of us that are not dying, so hopefully we can hold up the fourth person of our show. And so we will throw or drop the green flag, however you want to put it, on the episode for episode 13
Yeah.
and get right into who or what are we repping. We will start with Mr. Jessup Pelkey. Who or what are you repping?
Well, Mason, I'm continuing on my little trend of irrelevancy here. And this one's kind of a cool little shirt. This week, we are going to Ohio, Berlin Heights, Ohio, to be exact. This individual has not raced since 2021, and it is Jim Paller. I think that's how you say his name, Paller. And he has one of the more unique racing nicknames, and it is the Amish Assassin. And I think this is actually, all things considered, it's a pretty cool little shirt. Now we got to break this down real quick, Mason. I'm not exactly sure if he's Amish and he's an assassin, or he's an assassin who takes out the Amish. It's very tough to tell, especially in that part of mid-America. I'm not quite exactly sure, but we're going to leave that up to our fans, and we're going to see what you guys think about that.
That's a great idea because, yeah, that could. But I have never really. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been in Ohio too much to understand how it works over there.
Well, you see, you're either an assassin of the Amish, or you're Amish and you're an assassin. Those are really the two options we have.
Jessup, so who got last week's t-shirt? Have you given that away yet?
Nobody's
Have you?
Nobody's offered. Nobody wants it yet.
So if people would like a free t-shirt, what do they have to do? Comment in the comments below, or
Leave a 5-star review. I'm not buying your 5 stars. I'm offering you a nice exchange.
I would like to see this because, yeah, that shirt is kind of cool. That skull looking thing on the front,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I'd kind of like to see more of these around our area. I mean, I'm not a huge skull and crossbone type of guy myself, outside of like Gravedigger and whatnot, but that's my childhood. But this is pretty cool. It's kind of in decent taste, and it's not over the top where you see a lot of race shirts where there's skulls and there's blood and there's like the bullet hole through the skull. And it's like, that's too much. No, we don't need that. This has got a skull with a old style race helmet with the old racing goggles on it. We'll take one more look at it. It's a pretty cool shirt. So if anybody wants it, I'm probably going to be more than happy to part ways with it. And yeah.
Cool. So yeah, contact Jessup, or if you see him at the track, let him know you may be interested in one of his, what he calls irrelevant shirts, but I think they're all relevant in the racing community. And so we will move on to Becca. Who or what are you repping?
so this particular weekend is the season opener for the Jamestown Speedway, and I am wearing one of their Jamestown Speedway volunteer shirts. They actually handed this out about 2 years ago now, as a way to make the volunteers at the Jamestown Speedway look as one unified team. I like that concept. I wish more tracks would do that. Unfortunately, not Unfortunately, not many of the volunteers at Jamestown Speedway wear this shirt, so that's okay. But it is a really nice shirt. It, of course, it is the home of the Stock Car Stampede, and yeah, it's just a really nice, different look for them because typically they're red and yellow, and this is a nice bright blue, stands out kind of shirt. So yes, the season opener for the Jamestown Speedway kicks off this Saturday, and hope to see everyone there.
Hey,
There you
all
go.
you Jamestown volunteers, I want you to wear that specific shirt this year just so we can give our retro throne second caution flag for Becca to make sure she starts in the back of the.
Agreed.
I don't like these
Agreed.
accusations made by Becca.
I don't either. And this unfounded acquisitions that Becca has.
John, when have you worn this shirt to the Jamestown Speedway?
Oh, I actually wore it at the opener last year.
Oh,
Oh,
only
And then a
the
couple
well,
other
opener?
more nights.
Only
you
the
know-
opener?
Oh no, I wore it multiple nights last year. But see, Becca, you wouldn't know that. You weren't there for the opener last year.
yeah. Where were you, Becca?
Where were we, Jessup?
Might have been in Dickinson. I couldn't remember.
I
Oh,
actually,
No,
I
no,
could
no.
actually tell you, we were probably in Knoxville.
Oh.
Yes, I think you were.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you were.
Well. Jessup does know. This is why I'm your
Yes.
pole sitter.
Maybe this is why Becca needs another caution. She does not know.
I am not all here mentally.
We are in
Actually-
Indianapolis, Illinois, according to Becca.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
And remember, she's dying. She's just
Dying.
dying.
My
She
head
has
is
cannot
either
even-
stuffed up or it's just like leaking fluids everywhere. So it's one or the other.
It's
And
leaking fluids everywhere. Your head is
Yeah.
leaking fluids everywhere. Wow, we really are dying.
yes. Ugh.
Here,
And my
I'll give
throat.
I'll give you a little break, Becca, because I'll go into who or what I'm repping before we get to John and his history lesson for today. So a repeat hat, but shout out to Stephen Pfeiffer. He got a win up at Estevan this weekend. The shirt I'm repping is Adam Brotherton, number 14, Minnesota Midwest Mod from Huron, South Dakota. He got 2 wins this weekend, Friday over at the Brown County Speedway, and then Sunday for the opener at Casino Speedway. So very good weekend for Adam. He was having some headache or health issues on Saturday, so he wasn't able to race Miller Central. And so sounds like he has headaches that kind of like really affect him. And so wasn't able to race all 3 nights, but the nights that he did race looked pretty dang good. And so congratulations to Adam on those 2 wins this weekend, and happy to rep the shirt. John, who or what are you repping?
Well, I've continued with my tradition of going down memory lane. So tonight we are taking a trip down memory lane of 2011 because I am wearing the 2012 Stock Car Stampede shirt. This was the 41st annual Stock Car Stampede shirt, which has the winners of the 40th annual, which was back in 2011, on the back of the shirt. Does anybody want to guess on how many cars Jamestown had for the Stock Car Stampede in 2011?
285.
What did you
A
say,
lot.
Mason? 85?
285.
Oh, 285. Mason is
still-
pretty close.
I stand by my answer.
I need a number, Becca. The lot doesn't fly in my book.
295.
Becca's close too. And Jessup, where are you at?
292?
Oh, Jess is even closer than all of you.
Yeah,
It's 291.
Let's
But
go.
Mason wins. But Mason wins because it's like the Wheel of Fortune,
Oh.
where it's the
Price
highest
is
result.
right.
Oh, get him!
Price is Right.
Get
Sorry.
him! Get
Wrong
him!
game
Get
show.
him!
Wrong
Get him!
game
I just
show.
corrected shit on that one. It's not the Wheel of Fortune. It is the Price is
The
Right.
most iconic game show of all time. The Price is Right. Get it right.
Which I really do love. The Price is Right and Drew Carey. He does a great job nowadays.
I
After
love watching
Bob
The Price
Barker
is Right.
retired, I agree.
Price is
Every
wrong,
weekday at 10
Bob.
o'clock in Bismarck. So, but no, they had a great car count that year. They had 291 cars. They had 45 bombers, 59 Midwest mods, 55 streets, 31 Wasota Superstocks, 56 Wasota modifieds, 30 late models, and they had 15 Hornets. So they used to run the Hornets back then, as well as the Stock Car Stampede. So it had a really good field of cars. I would honestly say the best race of the night that was on the track was probably in my opinion, was probably the Midwest Mod feature. And the reason why I say that is because the Midwest Mod feature winner that night was Billy Christ. Billy
Oh,
Christ
I was
ended
there
up
for
winning.
that.
Yep, Billy Christ ended up winning that night in an old Midwest modified. I mean, that was not a very new car. and it was actually a car that his dad was running most of the season, and Billy got into for the Stampede. He fended off Travis Sauer, Brett Hoyam, as well as Dustin Strand. Dustin Strand actually made a run at Billy coming out of turn 2 on the final lap. They made contact, Strand went around, and Billy went on to win the race. So congratulations to Billy. That was his first Stock Car Stampede win until he got his next win in 2020 in the Wissota Street Stocks. That was the year that he also won the Big Buck Nationals, as well as won the points championship within Jamestown, and also obviously the Stock Car Stampede and a bunch of races that year within 2020. But no, that was probably by far the best race of the night in my opinion on that one too. Your other winners were, you had Ross Dixon, who picked up the Wissota Super Stocks. You had Jeff Wildlung in the Wissota Late Models. You had Cody Skitland in the Wissota Modifieds. You had Duffy Fromke, who made a return back to racing that year in 2011 in the Wissota Street Stocks, ended up winning, beat Trent Gregory. That was another really good race that finished within the last couple laps with the last lap pass, or a couple lap pass. And then you have Tyler Hintz, who picked up the Bomber feature win that night. And this shirt from 2012, which had the winners on from 2011, 2012, which we'll go down memory lane on that one in just a little bit as well, on a different episode, obviously. That one was the year that they had the highest car count to date at the Stock Car Stampede. So that's the shirt I am repping tonight.
Yeah, I was there for half of the features of the Stampede. I actually want to say me and my family, we left after the Midwest Mods. And I remember just seeing Strand turn around in turn 3. And I was like, why can't we just stay for the rest of them? They were so good.
So yeah, it was interesting because Tyler Hintz was somebody that back, especially during those days for the Bomber Day stuff, that you really wouldn't expect Tyler to win. You expected Tyler to run in top 10, but Tyler was back in the car. So he had run it for, basically a couple years back in the car that year. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he ended up passing like Lucas Rodin within that race, because Lucas had was really strong in the Bombers a couple years before that with a couple of wins with the Stock Car Stampede. So Lucas was by far probably one of the favorites within that division at that time, and he ended up passing Lucas on his way to victory. You also had within that race for the Bombers, just going down memory lane here a little bit as well. So you had Jeff Vogel in that race, which Jeff was really strong back then. You also had Sean Becker in that race, which Sean was really strong back then. You had Tyler Foth in that race, who was also another strong runner back then too, and also Chris Gushes. So Chris Gushes was somebody over there in Jamestown that was always strong in the Bomber division. So yeah, so there's my trip down memory lane here as we go back to 2011 for the Stock Car Stampede.
Yeah, definitely getting closer to present day time. So I'll be interested to see what you come up with as you continue to your tradition of Stampede shirts. And I'm sure there's multiple shirts from multiple years.
Oh, there is. I need to get a hat though, like put like my history professor hat on, and then we can go from there.
Yes, but these are fun. These are fun to kind of go over and see what all happened years ago and kind of how things have shifted. Because I know there's some classes obviously that aren't racing the Stampede now, that were racing even as soon as like 6-7 years ago. So that's pretty cool. All righty, so that is who or what we're repping, and so we will go into our first full-blown track pack report, and I'll kick things off with Friday's action, which kicked off things over at the Red River Valley Speedway. Actually, kind of a little precursor to that. They had a test and tune on Wednesday, so I ventured out for that. Had like between 50 to 70 cars, and track was in really good shape, and so that was good to see all the cars that were there, and not everyone had their cars wrapped or stickered, so that was going to be interesting to see how many of them got them stickered from Wednesday to Friday. But going into Friday's action, we had a little bit of rain in the morning, kind of helped with track prep a little bit, and then the rest of the day was nice and sunny, and so turned out to be a very beautiful night of racing. And so they had 98 cars in their 6 classes, highlighted by 27 legends, which we're going to be talking a little bit about the legends a little bit later on, because they had a lot of cars on Friday night in particular. And so I'd say the track was very, very smooth for the opening night. It was interesting because turns 1 and 2 was pretty tacky for the entirety of the night, and then turns 3 and 4 got a little bit slick in spots. And so you almost had 2 completely different corners as the night progressed. And so it was really interesting to see how drivers would kind of maneuver their cars through one side of the track and then handle the other side, because you could definitely tell some were set up for slick and some were set up for tacky. And yeah, it was like a kind of a mixed bag of comers and goers throughout the features. And then the other thing I noticed that the dreaded TITT struck many competitors. Do you know what the TITT is? Becky, you're muted.
Isn't there a Facebook page? Tractor tire, infield tractor tire.
Couldn't it be ITT?
I think they go by TITT, the infield tractor tire.
Yeah, the infield tractor tire.
Yep.
Yeah, that claimed several people in all the races, and so that made things interesting because people were trying to dive down into like turn 1, for instance, or dive down low out of turn 4, and they just nicked the tires, and some of them would spin out, some of them would break tie rods or whatever, and so made things interesting. But I'll go into the results here, starting the IMCA Sport Mods with Scott Jacobson holding off Rich Pavlicek. Those two were duking it out last year for the title up until the last lap, and they were doing the same for the opening night feature. And so congratulations to Scott Jacobson. Legends went to Sean Johnson in the 58. He started, I believe, 16th and got up to the lead by the end of the race. And Cody Mackart, one of the younger drivers in the Legend division, was leading a lot of that race. And Sean was just biding his time and kind of being patient and moving up through the field. Also, shout out to Evan Hendrickson, who started 26th and ended up 5th in that race. In the, hang on, lost it for a brief second there. Modifieds went to Dave Shipley in front of Colin Hibden. Those two put on a really good show as well, kind of running side by side the last couple of laps. Colin actually took the lead coming to the white flag, and then Shipley was able to throw it in hard and kind of hold him off the last lap to hang on for the win there. The IMCA Sabre Sprints went to Tyler Ravenberg. He is out of southern Minnesota, I believe. He claimed his first feature win last season at the Red River Valley Speedway and got another win there. So he's off to a great start. Hobby Stocks also came down to the wire with Brody Eckert edging out Tim Otterness. Those guys were side by side the last couple of laps, and they put on a good show for the fans. And then the stock cars finished off the program with Rob Van Mill rocketing to the front after a fierce battle. There was 3 and 4 wide throughout various parts of that race. A lot of side-by-side action. I think Trent Greger was actually the fastest car on the track, but I want to say 6 or 7 laps to go, he was tracking down Rob Van Mill and got sideways in turns 1 and 2 and lost several spots trying to gather himself back up. But congratulations to Rob Van Mill on the win. He's got a really sharp-looking car, minus the number placement. But that's just personal preference. So that kicked things off over at the Red River Valley Speedway for their season opener, and they had a really great crowd on hand too. So that was good to see. So then moving on to the rest of us, or rest of you guys that were over at the Dacotah Speedway, I'll open up with Becca because I know she's got a little bit of sickness going on. How was Friday night for you from your vantage point?
It was good. Yes. Yes. So no, Friday night was really good. It wasn't
Good
too
recap,
hot.
Becca. Good recap.
Yep, that was a
too-
great recap. I mean, you're dying. The less time, the better.
So it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Literally just a perfect day for racing. Great fan count as well in Mandan. And I think just because it wasn't so incredibly hot, I think that really helped with the track prep and really made for a fantastic racing surface because all of the feature races later in the night were phenomenal. Like all of them were super competitive and just great side-by-side or 3 and 4 wide racing throughout the field. So just great racing all around, great car counts as well. We had 102 cars check into the pits, 21 mods, 16 street stocks, 40 INX Legends, 21 Hobby Stocks, and 4 IMCA Sport Compacts. And if you are an IMCA Sport Compact driver in North Dakota, I want to see you at Dacotah Speedway. Definitely got to boost those car counts up in Mandan. So, but despite the fact that there were only 4 cars, they still put on a great show. So starting with our IMCA Sport Compacts.
They were 4 wide at one point.
They were 4 wide coming to the green flag, and it was a great battle between Chris Yost and Paul Schuh. But Chris Yost made the pass for the win with about 2 laps to go to take home his second victory, back-to-back wins at the Dacotah Speedway. I believe at the time that was his 3rd win overall on the season. So Chris Yost is off to a great start here in North Dakota. In the Hobby Stock division, Bill Hultberg, he started 8th on the field. He drove his way to the front, and he picked up his very first victory since 2021. So he had been on quite a dry spell, and he broke that on Friday night in the hobby stock division. Again, we had 40 Inex Legends on Friday night, and great battles in all of the heat races, the B mains, but the feature was really great. We had a special guest, Billy Workman Jr. was in the area. He was here to help some of our younger drivers with giving them some driving tips and tricks and just kind of coaching them, especially those younger drivers, because we have 12-year-olds and 13 and 14-year-olds out there, and anything that they can just pick up and learn from someone as successful as Billy Workman Jr., I think that goes a long ways. So he wasn't even planning on racing. So I think his heat race, he qualified for the feature through his heat race, but I think he was just trying to get the feels of the track and this car that he just hopped in at the last minute. And he started 7th in that feature event, and he also drove it to the front, made a pass for the win with 4 laps to go over Nate Kina, and he went on, and it was kind of cool to watch him race because he kind of just threw it in and just let the back end hang. It's really cool to watch because you just typically don't see that with Inex Legend cars. So
yeah, I remember
definitely
watching that too, and I was like, I've never seen a Legend car kind of like almost like drift like that around the corners.
Yes. So it was really impressive to watch. He ended up pulling away at the very end, and he picked up the win. He had never been to Dacotah Speedway, never seen this track, and at his first time here, he picked up the victory. In the Wissota Street Stocks, Hunter Damagala chased down Jeff Hellman. It was another like late race pass for the win in the Wissota Street Stocks. 2 laps to go, John says. And he went back-to-back victories here at the Dacotah Speedway. He's also your 3-time defending track champion. So he definitely has this track figured out. And then in your IMSA Modifieds, it was a really, really good battle all throughout the field, not just at the front. Even 4th, 5th, 6th place back, they were racing 3 and 4 wide for position, just slicing and dicing. It was really fun to watch. A mid-race caution could really kind of change it all because Scotty Gardner had a huge lead when the green flag waved, but that mid-race caution kind of just changed everything. And on the restart, it allowed Marlon Seiler, Jeremy Keller just to kind of zoom past some of those guys at the front. And those two were battling for the win at the very end because Marlon started catching lap traffic as the laps started to wind down. And so coming to the checker flag, Jeremy Keller threw a Hail Mary of a last lap pass. He kind of slid up underneath Marlon, but Marlon kind of just kept that pedal to the floor, and he ended up just edging Keller just by inches at the finish line. It was a really exciting finish if you look at the footage or at the replay, but it was Marlon Sadler who picked up the victory over Jeremy Keller in the IMC Modifieds.
Yeah, so great racing all around for Mandan. From your vantage point, Jessup, what kind of stood out to you throughout that race night?
Oh, the last corner drive by Marlin to get back around Keller was really cool. The other aspects that I thought I would really like to see more IMCA sport compacts there. It's getting harder and harder to justify 4 cars having a class at this point, but hopefully the next couple weeks they start showing up. Let's see. Another good race out of the street stocks. Those guys are always doing good. Hobby stocks, another great race as well. Not really any bad races throughout the night. Like I said, the only thing you really need to hope and pray for one class is that they get people to show back up to the track. But outside of that, I guess all the features were pretty good. Legends need to, when they get going, they're pretty good, but it's when it's getting them to get going.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the last 2 races that we've had, getting them to the point where they're filed in and working their way through each other is an issue, because it's been pretty caution heavy lately with their features, which isn't always a bad thing, but it makes for a long feature. It makes for some restless fans, and it makes for some restless and frustrated drivers. But once they get going, it's really tough to say that the NX Legends aren't that exciting, because they put on a heck of a show.
Yeah,
we
and I'm
have to
sure.
remember. Sorry, Mason. I was gonna say we have to remember this is only race number 2 for most of these drivers. So just trying to get into that racing groove might take a little time, but they have been known to also go green to checker too. So, but yeah, this so far only on race number 2 here in Mandan. The races start a little caution heavy, but once they get about that halfway moment, that halfway part of the race, they click them off just fine. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, being early in the season, I'm sure like there's gonna be a few more cautions. I noticed that at West Fargo too. Pretty much all the classes actually got to like a yellow black situation, and so
I wish we had that. It'd be
I do
nice.
too. I
Because
honestly do too.
honestly, like we push the show along so fast, it makes things almost feel like it's rushed to an extreme. And the biggest issue is like all these cautions and the downtime with the cautions. Well, if you take that away from them, you actually promote cleaner racing, and essentially it would behoove the drivers to not cause any more than the cautions after the third caution.
Mhm. Yeah, because coincidentally, yeah, in most cases it cleaned up right after the yellow black, and there's actually a couple races that they had 2 cautions and they hadn't completed a lap, and so you'd see Mr. Bicker kind of going like as they were kind of driving by, like, use your head. It's lap 1. Let's get the laps going, and so yeah, I'm sure first couple races are going to be kind of like that, having a few more cautions here and there, but I'm sure once people get to seat time and adjust, like whether it's a new car or just a new class, I'm sure that'll get cleaned up too. Jessup, did you have, or not Jessup, John, did you have any additional takeaways from Mandan?
No, I think Jessup and Becca covered it really well. A really good night overall. Um, the track for the features was really good. Especially the mod race. I would say probably that might have been one of the best mod races I've seen in Mandan in about the past 10 years, just from the amount of battling and 3 wide and movers and shakers and just various people that took the lead. You had, Scotty Gardner hit the ground running right away at the start of that feature until there was a caution about 8 laps in. And then a bunch of the field back up, and then you had a whole new group of players that started on, came to the front of the field. You had Quentin Kinsley, who led for a little bit. Mark Dahl came to the front for a little bit, running the guardrail on the bottom. Then you had Marlon through the middle, and Marlon took over the point. And then you had Jeremy kind of come out of nowhere. Jeremy was back to basically, I think, 11th, 12th, maybe even 13th at one point, and started working his way back up to the front. So it was a very interesting feature to watch, but also a very entertaining feature to watch too, because they were all over the track. There was really, really, really good racing from that perspective. And the same for the other classes too. Like we mentioned, Streets had really good battles, the Legends had really good battles as well. Um, I do agree with Jessup too. It's going to be nice when the Legends have a little bit more track time and get cleaned up a little, because there's a lot of drivers in the classes here, but there's also a lot of depth in the class too. One of my biggest takeaways probably from Friday night was some of the guys that didn't make the feature. That have been top 10, top 5 in points from previous years. For instance, and I don't want to pick on him directly either too, but Ivan sat in the grandstands to watch the feature event. He was the first car that did not make the feature out of the first consi. So I mean, that just shows you the amount of talent that's in that class that has been growing over the last couple of years. So, and Hobby Stocks put on a great show on Friday night too, especially between Bill Halper. The Horners were up front for a majority of that feature event as well. So some really good battles there on all of those classes. So yeah, so it was a very good night overall, and we still finished very, very, very reasonable from a time perspective, just a little bit after 10 o'clock. So it was a very good night.
Jumping back in real quick, John, talking about the depth of the Legends. I'm telling you, the two we need to keep an eye on are the Madlers.
Yes. They're both having really good starts, and they're running really well. They were both top 5 at several points in the feature event on Friday.
Mm-hmm. And another person who had a pretty solid night themselves was just looking at the finishes from the feature. How about Gus Jensen finishing 8th? That's
22nd to 8th.
Yep, plus 14
in a brand new car. Yep,
Yep.
in a brand new car as well that he's still learning.
Yep. So that was pretty cool. We're talking. We often give a lot of praise to like Preston, Donovan, Austin, Alex. All those guys have earned and I'm sure I'm missing a couple names too, but those guys have earned like the prestige that they have. But there's no gimmies this year. There's no set. I mean, you got your normal regular heavy hitters, but this year there's no gimmies. There's no easy wins. Everything's going to be earned, and I always laugh because I like to quote John, who's quoting John Gartner Jr., who always quotes the Macho Man. The cream always rises to the top, but it's not as easy as it once was.
No, we've talked about it the last couple of weeks with Mandan for sure. Mason, it applies to Fargo. It's going to apply to, Jamestown, Cheyenne, as well as even Dickinson this next upcoming weekend. It's going to be there's in the Legend Division alone. I feel like for sure this year, and maybe it started more last year, but for sure this year alone, there's probably a good 10 drivers that you can throw into a hat that could win at any given time, on any given track throughout the future event, depending on directly where they start at, or even if they start towards the tail end, they could still come to the front. That's just how talented that legend field has become, at any given track. I know the other thing too is that, we talked about how large the car counts have become for the legends. Mandan right now, the first two nights has had 41 and 40. Fargo had 27 first night. Last year, Mandan was averaging right around that 35 mark for legends. I wouldn't be surprised if we average 40 this year, just by seeing last week how many cars we still got from there. And then I'm going to be very curious to see from a Dickinson and Jamestown and Lisbon perspective how many cars they get, because for sure, like in the state of North Dakota right now, and I'm going to include Glendon in that because Glendon had 23 cars on Sunday too. I mean, there's at least 80 some legend drivers, at least that are probably within North Dakota this year. That is a large amount of drivers, and a lot of talent to pull from. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a fun year to watch them throughout the North Dakota area.
And one other takeaway too, Mason, from this, just hopping off legends real quick. There was a really nice mix of drivers across all the fields. When I say that, there's a lot of travelers. You're looking at the Minotians and the modified division. It's pretty cool to see them consistently coming down. So that's really nice to see the support there. Then we had Andy Capp come over from Jamestown, so that was pretty
Chris
cool.
Ritter.
Yep,
Chris Ritter came over as well.
And
Todd
then,
Carter was back for another week as well.
Yep, and then if you look out to our friends out west, Caden Roberts came over from Dickinson. So it's fun to see the drivers making their way over to Dacotah Speedway, and it's just nice to see everyone getting out while they can. So
yeah, absolutely. And kind of just to put a bow on and just kind of watching the broadcast from my vantage point. Yeah, it was nice to see Kelly Horner out there, because I think that everyone feared that he blew his engine after kind of a rough start to the year. So nice to see him back out there running out up front. And then shout out to Brock. I forget his last name. That co-announces with John. What was that?
Widener.
Brock Widener. I thought he did a really good job, especially calling that IMCA modified feature. I was very entertained listening to that. So
I really enjoy listening to Brock because he just drops these little dimes in the middle of his commentary. Like he'll be calling a great battle, but then he'll just drop this those little phrases, those little phrases, and I don't know how to explain it because it's just so great. And I'm just I love it.
He's learning from the master.
Yes, he's not just calling the race as he sees it, but he's adding a little just flair to it, and he's just becoming his own little announcer, and I love it. So yeah, he's doing a fantastic job on the mic.
There you go. So that was Friday night's action. Moving on to Saturday, did anyone do anything Saturday? I know Jamestown had their test and tune. Did anyone go over to their test and tune or anything like that? I know they had supposedly a really good turnout.
I was dying.
I heard.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, she's still
dying.
I literally
she had a green bean on that Saturday, and it just died. And from there, it's been downhill.
We got home from the races of Mandan at 1 a.m. and I slept until 2 p.m. Jessup was kind enough to make me something to eat. I ate went back to bed till about 5. We had tickets to go see a comedy show, and I had to miss that obviously, but woke up at 5, lasted a half hour, and went back to bed and got up around 7:30. And I was like, okay, I think I can stay up longer than a half hour. But I didn't watch. I should have watched Estevan, but I kind of forgot. There's Disney movies on, and I watched Disney movies instead.
Yeah.
Oops.
I watched a little bit of the NASCAR stuff that was going on because obviously with North Wilkesboro going on, I kind of wanted to watch some of that. The truck race was pretty good. I was very entertained by the trucks. Really good races that they were kind of beating and banging. And then obviously they ran the qualifying heats essentially for the All-Star field that night, which I watched a little bit of that, but not much. I was also watching some other things that were on TV during that time frame too.
John, that's actually a good segue into something we'll probably talk about a little bit later, but it's kind of cool to see a track that had decided to close in the mid-90s reopen, and they had a huge success. I know they only had 20,000 fans there?
30, I think it was 30.
Oh,
But
Yep.
it doesn't matter because the fans that they
Nope,
had
they were
there
packed.
created such an amazing atmosphere, and everyone wore these all retro, old school NASCAR things, and whatever era they were from, whether that was like the early 60s, 70s, or maybe if you were a person like me, you probably wore something from the mid 90s, 2000s. Like, it was a great time, and I enjoyed watching the races on Sunday from North Wilkesboro. And I know, Mason, we have something coming up a little bit later in the agenda, but it's great to see a track that had once decided to close reopen and be welcomed with such a huge pomp and circumstance.
Yes. Mason, where were you at on Saturday?
I went over to the Viking Speedway season opener. I believe it was their 58th annual season opener. So second attempt of trying to go over there because they rained out last week. But
I wonder why.
well, I wasn't anywhere near the area. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. It was it was within the 900-mile radius of Mason. So
Yes.
Well.
I have developed a radius that Mason is for weather, and it's 900 miles each direction.
It is raining as we podcast at the moment, and Mason was literally in Bismarck 24 hours ago.
We're not surprised.
I'm still trying to fulfill Heather and Nolan's request for a rain up in Devil's Lake. I drove through there twice, and I don't think they've gotten anything yet. So I'm trying. I seriously am trying. But anyways, back to last Saturday, went over to Viking Speedway for their season opener. They actually had the Superstock special taking place. So $800 to win was the prize money for the Superstocks. The track was in really good condition, was very smooth and racy for most of their classes. And so they did a good job on the track prep. And then one of my favorite parts of Viking Speedway is always the atmosphere in the pits afterwards. I know Jessup and Becca have been to Viking Speedway. John, have you been to the Viking Speedway before? Okay. So
it's a big half mile, John.
Yeah,
and then you watch the cars go off on corner 1, and they magically appear back up halfway down the backstretch, and then they continue, and then they go back off corner 1, and then they come back on, and they continue.
Well, anyways,
vroom vroom with race car noises.
Oh yes, I forgot to make those on Friday. I need to make more race car noises for some of our listeners.
Well, the one part I love about Viking Speedway is the atmosphere in the pits afterwards, because they have a curfew, so they have to get done. I believe it's by 10:45, and so they start the show at about 6:30, 6:45. Get done at usually a reasonable time. I think we finished just a little after 10, and it's so cool to see all the fans that are just standing in line, just waiting to go across into the pits. There's always a big amount of fans that go into the pits afterwards and talk with the drivers and collect cards or talk, just kind of mingle. And so it's a really cool atmosphere. I always love seeing that at Alexandria in particular. I think they do a really good job of moving the show along. They have 5 regular classes that they typically have, so it's not like they have a lot of races to go through, and they have a good solid amount of cars in each class to put on a quality show. So I think they deserve some credit for that. And so for the results, we had a little bit of carnage. We had a couple of red flags. One of them in the Midwest Mods, Tanner Bitson slid off the top of 3 and 4 and kind of slid broadside into one of the tractor tires at the end of turn 4 and went at I want to say 5 or 10 feet in the air. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but landed on his roof, but thankfully it was okay. But Corey Stork dominated that race. He was out in front and led pretty much the entire way. And so congratulations to Corey Stork on the win there. In the Minnesota Street Stocks, it was Justin Vogel. He started outside row 2 and got to the lead pretty quickly and held off Eric Riley and Ryan Satter for the win there. So congratulations to Wolverine. Yeah, I think he went 3 in a row for the weekend. I think he won in Monty, Viking, and also Granite City on Sunday. So he had a really good weekend. Short trackers, we had a little bit of an incident with Nick Hiles kind of going off of turn 3 and ending up on his side. Like, it's crazy. Like the Hornets or the short trackers, they put up some pretty good speeds up there at Viking. And so he went off of turn 3 in a hurry. And so we couldn't really see what happened to him, but he was okay after that incident as well.
Fans, take notice. Mason is starting a new trend. We'll talk more about it. And we're going to see if this carries over for the next couple weeks or for the year. So
I can already see what trend you're thinking of, and yeah, okay.
Oh yes,
yes. So the first person that crossed the line in the short trackers was Waylon Current in the number 9 car, but he was disqualified in post race tech due to exhaust system issues. So that handed the win over to Cole Campson. So congratulations to Cole winning the short trackers. For the super stocks, Trevor Sauer, who's the main guy to beat over at Viking Speedway, went out to the front early and dominated that race to claim the $800 payday. And the Wissota Modifieds went to Justin Fremming. He started on the pole, but he was in his own zip code. He led every single lap of that race. Had a challenge or two from Joseph Thomas on a couple restarts, but he wasn't going to be caught, I don't think. I don't think anyone's going to pass him. And so that's another young modified driver. He scored his first win last year at the Viking Speedway, also won the Silver 1000 in the mods. So even though he's only got a handful of races basically under his belt, he is a really fast driver. And so congratulations to Justin Fremming on getting a big win over at Viking to start the season. And so moving on to Sunday, I know
Now, Mason, hold on.
What?
We have other stuff we can talk about here.
Okay, go ahead.
You see, we don't always have to be at the track to give credit where credit should be due.
Okay, Joseph.
Now, Becca talked a little bit about Estevan, and they had a very unique doubleheader this weekend, Friday, Saturday show, and 2 complete shows, with the second show giving the drivers the potential for a double purse payout. And that worked for the drivers who raced Friday night and then Saturday night. So you had to be in attendance both nights. But I just thought that was a really cool concept. You don't really see that too much, or I haven't seen it much anywhere. But they had the first night 82 cars. With Stephen Pfeiffer winning a slobber knocker of a modified race. And then, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? Is Esteban home? Oh, John, I know where you're going with that. That's funny. But then Austin Doe getting the win in the stock cars, Cruz Wilson winning hobby stocks, Beau Deschamps winning sport mods, and I can't say this. Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah, caution on Jessup though.
Well, whatever, I don't care.
It was Gabe Deschamps, not Deschamps.
Well, that's what it said on their what do you call it? I don't want to be mean to
Except
him.
for the caution. The caution you can
You
keep.
can leave the caution. That's okay. I'll get back up to the lead again.
And you're going over Friday's results first?
Yep, this is Friday's, and Jason Ashworth got the slingshots. Now, Saturday, because you guys weren't polite enough to talk about Friday's shows, Saturday they had 79 cars, and finally a Canadian won in the mod division as Cody Schultz got the win, and then Adam Goff took stock cars, Kyler Citran got hobby stocks, Darren Medler with the sport mods, and Brogan Wagner with his second slingshot win of the year. And I just feel that these individuals deserve a nice little tip of the cap, because it's a very unique style of a double header. And
I loved it.
And I think it was pretty cool how it's kind of like a marketing attraction set up to get new drivers or to garner more drivers to come travel up there. So hats off to you guys. You guys did a pretty neat job there. And hopefully the rest of your season goes well.
And Cody Schlope and Adam Goff are now entered into the All-Star voting
Yes.
contest for Boone Super Nationals.
Yes.
So be sure when the voting opens in mid-August, go vote for our local drivers because they're going to be up against some stiff competition. Not that they can't hold their own. They'll do just fine down there, but go vote for them. So
Yeah, I think that was a cool event too. And it was nice to see, again, a lot of American travelers coming across the board to race. It's been really cool to see to start the season. I hope that continues. I know there's a lot of drivers that want to make it over there. I think I just saw a post from one of the stock car drivers asking if they could cross the border without a passport, which I think there might be a way, but I'm not totally sure. But I know there's drivers that are interested in getting over.
Well, you see, Mason,
it's more
there's always a
complicated
way
without the
if you
pass
look
card
at,
or passport.
yeah,
Yes.
it's not that complicated, guys. Look at the southern border. Everyone's coming in, no passports or anything. They're just flying across the border.
We recommend that you do it in a legal way that won't get you into trouble on our soil. So so a busy Saturday, a busy weekend so far, and we'll finish it up with our Sunday racing that we got to experience. I know John got to go up to the Nodak. What was Nodak like for you, John?
Nodak was very, very much a fun time. It was nice weather outside, so it was a great day to sit outside and go there and basically enjoy some racing action. So they had 60 total cars in 4 divisions. So they ran their IMCA Sport Compacts. They had the IMCA stock cars, IMCA Sport Mods, and IMCA Modifieds. So they started at 6 o'clock, got done right before 9 o'clock. So it was a very reasonable time frame. And we had some fun. I mean, in the classes up there as a whole, they had 10 IMCA Sport Compacts. The IMCA Sport Compact winner was Chris Yost, who ended up passing Coy Schneider after Coy blew a motor with about only a couple of laps left within that feature. So tough break for him. But again, Chris Yost is on a tear this year. So he's just running well wherever he's been at. It was very entertaining. That feature was very entertaining. I mean, I was entertained no matter what was happening on the track during that feature event. So that feature was very interesting to say the least, especially with how the cars kept going off the speedway because it was a little slick. The other race though that they started the night with was the IMCA Sport Mods, and that feature was very interesting because early on in that feature you had Darren Medler who took the lead. Darren had picked up a feature win up in Estevan that weekend, but usually when Darren takes the lead, it kind of spells trouble for everybody else. He's a champion of the Stock Car Stampede. He's gone through and won multiple times with multiple track championships and other things as well, and has some really good runs overall. And Darren got high a little bit in 3 and 4, got into some of the wet stuff that was a little slick, and ended up looping it. You don't see him loop it very much by himself. He ended up looping it. He still came back to finish within the top 10. I believe he actually broke something with about 1 to go because he was running about top 5. He got back up to the top 5, and all of a sudden, it's almost like his left rear laid over. I don't know if it was a flat tire or if it was something broken, but it looked really strange the last lap. So he held on for a top 10. But congratulations up there as well. I mean, Chad Strachan, he was on another level on Sunday. Won his heat, won the feature. He was definitely going to be challenging Darren for that win, as the laps went in, even if Darren was running up front still in the lead. So congratulations to Chad on that one too. Within your stock cars, that was a pretty good race up front. You definitely had a great battle happening between Deshaw and as well as Flory. So Smokin' Joe Flory was slowly but surely working the bottom. One of the best at working the bottom.
Mhm.
And he was working the bottom up there and was just reeling in each and every lap game. So every lap he was just reeling them in and ended up passing him with only a few laps left, and Joe ended up taking the feature win. So congratulations to Joe on that one. Tough break for a couple drivers in that class. There was definitely some carnage in that feature event, which was unfortunate because it's the second race out for those drivers in Minot, and some nice looking cars got pretty beat up based on several circumstances throughout that feature event. The final race of the night, though, was the IMC Modifieds, and that was a great battle. Similar to what happened to Darren Medler, Travis Hagen ended up getting a little bit too high. He was running right back there around the fifth spot because obviously it's based on the point invert. So they started back a little bit deeper in the field and got a little bit too high and flew it off of turns 3 and 4 backwards. And you don't see Travis go off the high side very often at any track. I mean, he's known for running the high line and Minot right on the cushion. And went off the back straightaway of 3 and 4, went tail end. But that did not stop him. He got right up to the rear bumper as well as right beside the big show, Jason Walla, multiple times within that feature event. But Jason held him off in the end and picked up the feature win up in Minot. So really good race within the mods between those two drivers. You also had Marcus Tomlinson that was up there challenging for the lead up multiple times. You had Isaac Sundrell, Hot Sauce up there as well. Challenging Wayne Johnson. Tough break for Wayne. Wayne was actually up there in the top 3 within that feature event, had a bad restart and ended up getting wrecked. And yeah, so he had some bad luck essentially within that feature event. But yeah, so a really good feature race overall though up there. And congratulations to our feature winners.
Yeah, it's awesome that you got to go up to Nodak Speedway, and we were kind of messaging a little bit back and forth. John has made it to a race at Nodak Speedway in the season before I have.
That never happens. Never happens. I mean, usually I don't hit Minot until probably mod tour time. So yeah, so I have beat Mason to the punch this year.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly when I'll be able to get back up there, but we'll see. We'll see when I end up back there. And so the other Sunday event that one of us took in, I went down to the Casino Speedway for their season opener. Big takeaway for me was just the stands were absolutely full. Like there was a lot of fans there, and so much so that I did not even try to attempt to find a spot up in the stands to record. I basically asked like, hey, can I stand on your employee stand and record from there? And like, sure, go ahead. I'm like, perfect, because that's a good problem to have, that there's that many fans in the stands. And then the other
So the
aspect
crowd was quite large.
it was quite large. I do agree. The
But
other
you know what
aspect,
happened, John? You know what happened?
What?
It didn't rain, and Mason was furious.
Yes,
He was
that's why he
so
had to stand,
mad.
that's why he had to stand at the employee standard.
Yes,
Mhm.
and his unquenchable thirst for chaos came out again.
Yes. Yep.
Tell us what you did, Mason. Tell
Yes,
the
Mason, what did
people
you
what
do?
you did.
I'll get into the results here in just a second. I think the other interesting thing about Sunday's races as casino, I can't talk, at casino, there's a lot of
At
drivers that
casino?
are usually there that
Never
were
heard of
not.
this casino.
There's several 8 mile drivers, particularly like the Wards weren't there. I know Morgan Ward's waiting on an engine. David Carlson, I believe, had engine issues earlier in the weekend. Skorcheski, Searing, just a couple of the big names. And I know there were several Midwest mod drivers that were going to try to be there, but they had misfortune from earlier in the weekend. So there's still a lot of drivers I think that will be there more on a regular basis, but just this weekend didn't pan out for several of them to make it all the way to Sunday. And so, but that didn't stop the racing from being excellent, especially starting off with the street stocks. Had an excellent battle with Brock Stout, Al Schmidt, Jason Marco, just to name a few. Maria Brooksick was coming from the back of the pack. They were 2, almost 3 wide at certain points. Al Schmidt actually had a GoPro in his car. He was trying to hold off Marco on the low side and then Brock Stout on the top side. And basically it's like, which lane do you pick? Because they're both coming. So Brock Stout got the run out of 4 to get the win in the street stock. So big congrats to Brock Stout. That's a 4.5-hour drive for him on a Sunday. So big kudos to him for making the trip and getting the win. I'm sure that made the long trip home worth it. In the Midwest mods, they actually had a caution-free race, which was really cool to see. And Tommy Nichols, who had a really good weekend, was leading the first half of the race and kind of got hung up in lap traffic a little bit. And Adam Brotherton made a sweet move, repping the shirt again, to take the lead and absolutely check out for his season opening win at Casino. And he also won the season opener there last year. So congrats to Adam Brotherton. The Gen X late models, they put on a good show too. They were 2 and 3 wide for lead at various times. And after a caution, Doug Walsh got out to the front in the number 20 car, and he cruised on to the feature win in the Gen X late models. Modifieds, we had a little bit of carnage. We had quite a few cautions to start things off, and we ended up having one car tip over at the finish, past the start finish line a little bit. I didn't see exactly what happened, but it looked like it was a very soft roller. It was Nick Schmidt in the number 14 machine.
Mason, is this the third rollover that you saw over the
This
course of the
weekend.
weekend?
Yeah, technically it is.
See,
I think there might be a new trend here, race
Mhm.
fans.
I agree. Carnage
Well,
Mason or chaos with Mason.
Chaos. He is now the chaos factor.
We'll see. We didn't have, I don't believe we had a rollover on Friday in Red River Valley, so it wasn't every night.
Yeah, but you're averaging one a night.
Yeah, if I
For the
honestly,
weekend, this
I
past
didn't
weekend, you did.
see the tip over for Nick Hiles at Viking. I was told he was on his side, but I don't know.
You
I
were
think he
there.
flipped at least a dozen times.
Hopefully not. You don't want to flip in those short trackers. That's a bad deal if that happens. Well, getting back to the results, as I apparently have another curse that may be trending. We'll see how that goes this weekend. It's a busy weekend. But getting back to the modifieds, Joey Thomas was up front and he dominated that race. He checked out on the field after that first round of cautions and cruised on to the feature win. So congratulations to the 6ST. Hornets, another caution-free race with Carter Matthews, who's traveling from northern Minnesota, I believe is where he's originally from, and he dominated the Hornet race. He's been traveling all over, and so good win for Carter Matthews in the 07. And then the late models was also a really good race between Kurt Kranz, Chad Becker, and Jason Good, who jumped from a modified into a late model. I think might still have the modified, but
He still has the mod. Yep. He's focusing on late model right now, though.
yeah, and he actually had a pretty good weekend, but he got underneath Kranz. He was going to make the pass, and then a caution came out, and so I think that wrecked the best chance he had of getting the win. But congratulations to Kurt Kranz and number 87 for getting the win at Casino Speedway. So that was the first full weekend of season opening action for 2023, and it was awesome to see a bunch of tracks get their seasons kicked off or continuing in some instances, and so. We're going to look ahead now to a very hectic weekend. We're going to go to Mr. Dakota Dirt. What is on tap for racing in North Dakota to start with?
Oh my God. So if anybody wants any type of racing news from North Dakota, but I'm not just talking news, I'm talking results, recaps, weather forecasts, much more information on their Facebook page as well as their website, which is dakotadirt.org, or they are social on social media platforms. Check out your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing results and news and much more. Again, that is Dakota Dirt. That is your one-stop shop. Check out Dakota Dirt, your one-stop shop for everything in North Dakota racing news.
Thank you, John. That's a very kind words that you put out there, like you always do. Mason was right. It's going to be a busy weekend, busy week. Kicks off this Thursday. You guys got to get out there. Or allegedly, it is supposed to kick off this Thursday as Cheyenne was originally scheduled to have a race the 25th. It was on the original schedule. Now, there's questions and rumors that it may or may not be occurring. So double check before making any plans Thursday night. Wishick had to cancel again, which is becoming a bit concerning. We can talk about that after we get through this monstrous list of races. Then going on to Friday, it's the Dacotah Speedway. Continuing on, it's their military night. All active and non-active military members with a valid military ID get in for $10. And then River Cities and Red River, along with McLean County Speedway, will all be racing this Friday. McLean is kicking off their 2023 season, so it should be a good night for them as well. They've done a lot of nice improvements on their facility, so I know they're pretty excited to get their season going. And if you can't make it to any of the other tracks, definitely try to make it out there, support them. And then we move on to Saturday. Saturday's another busy night. The Jamestown Speedway kicks off their 2023 season. It will be one to definitely try to get out to, along with the Southwest Speedway. They have a big late model special over there. It's a 40-lap race. It's definitely a very good paying late model race as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some big names trying to make the tow over to the Southwest Speedway. just a little north of there is the Williston Basin Speedway. They are going to be racing as well. And then Devil's Lake will also be racing as well. So you got plenty of options on Saturday. Sunday is Nodak Speedway, and I just noticed on the site we need to add one more to Monday as well. But Nodak is racing Sunday night, and then they are going to be pulling a double header as well as Monday. They're going topless. No, not the fans. Although I guess if it is hot, I guess some people probably could go topless, but not. The cars will be going topless along with having the wingless sprints there up at the Nodak Speedway. So that'll be a good time. And potentially, I'm not sure because, again, we have to do a little more research here. Mason was telling us earlier that there is no racing Thursday night at Cheyenne. But
For
it
sure,
is
Monday.
For sure, Monday night. It is their big Memorial Day race. I will say this: I've been there for at least 2 other Memorial Day races, and it's always been a very, very good show. They do a nice job there. I hope they do the parade of cars again this year. That's pretty cool. And if you get the chance, especially all you East Siders, I know it's early in the race season for you guys. If you get a chance, go out there and support that track. It's a great show, great night. And yeah, that's about the week of racing. And I thought, was it Southwest was going to try to get a test and tune in at some point this week?
I think Wednesday. They want us to do it Wednesday.
Wednesday.
This will be coming out earliest on Wednesday, so potentially it might have happened, it might not. We'll see.
Yep, and the only reason why I'm saying we have some questions to the schedules is it has been a handful of schedules have been changing left, right, and otherwise. And let me double check something. I have a feeling I'm left one track out here. Let's go to my.
So
I believe Thunder Mountain might be racing this weekend,
it's not on my schedule.
or was that last weekend?
Their first race looks to be Saturday, June 3rd.
They were actually racing last week on this Saturday.
Yeah,
Throw
I
the
think that's
caution,
what
John.
it was.
Throw the caution, John.
They opened on Saturday.
Oh, I didn't
Not
update
all
them.
here.
Oops.
Kind of feeling drainy at the moment, but give it an
Drainy.
hour.
Those
I'll
fluids
feel
are running all
stocky.
over the place again.
They
Yep, that was
are.
last week.
Anyways,
Yes.
their next race will be June 3rd then.
Big weekend. A lot of people should get out there. If you get a chance to go to a track, that's awesome. If you're out with your family and friends, that's awesome. But try to hit at least one track this weekend because you got
Agreed.
plenty of time.
Agreed. Try to hit
Yep.
something this weekend.
Let me I'll run down the other tracks going on this weekend outside in North Dakota. So Thursday, I have to double check. I don't know if Victory Lane Speedway is opening up this week. I haven't heard that they canceled this Thursday, but that's
When?
potentially on the schedule. KRA Speedway I know is opening up on Thursday the 25th, so that should be a good night for them. Friday, you could go to the Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen or the I-94 EMR Speedway in Minnesota. Montevideo Fiesta City Speedway is off due to the Mon Nationals that will be taking place this weekend. Wisconsin portion taking place on Friday, I believe, or at Gondik Live, I want to say. And then
Correct.
Ogilvy on Saturday and Sunday. Greenbush is opening on Saturday as well. So they'll be kicking off their season. Viking Speedway is hosting the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour, the first night of that, and they'll host on Sunday as well for that tour. Miller Central Speedway and North Central Speedway are also continuing their season on Saturday. And then Sunday, Bemidji Speedway is opening up with a doubleheader on Sunday the 28th and Monday the 29th. Casino Speedway as well. And then, like I said earlier, Ogilvy and Viking. Monday the 29th, Memorial Day, Madison Speedway is opening up their season as well. And so if you don't get to race this weekend, it's really on you because there's plenty of options no matter where you go to get some sort of racing. And I encourage you, go to the lake if you want, but I encourage you, go out and support the racetracks, especially because a lot of these tracks are opening up for the first time this season. You know, we talk about Jamestown, where a lot of us are very close with Jamestown. So I'm expecting to see a good showing of cars, good showing of fans there, because it's been a long off season for several people in the area. So definitely check out these tracks on a Memorial Day weekend. So we are going to move into our white flag, move into some hot sauce, kind of spicing up some things to finish out the episode. Thanks to Isaac Sandro and Hot Sauce Enterprises. Mr. Isaac Sandro had a really good run this weekend up in Minot, finished, I believe, 4th in the feature there. And so congratulations to Isaac. We want to thank you for joining us on the podcast. Encourage you, if you ever see Isaac at the racetrack in the pits, go stop by his trailer for some good treats, desserts. You might see some of his special hot sauce that he may have. And once he gets out of the farming field, I know he's been really busy with farming. I think we'll see him at the track a little bit more. And he's been really excited because he thinks he has a really good car for the season. So thank you, Isaac, for supporting us. And so we'll get into our wins of the week before we get into the rumors and developments. And so who has a win or two of the week that they want to share? Don't everyone
I'll
else
go
go
first.
once?
All right, I'll
Say,
go
who
first.
wants to go first?
Let me get the coughs out first. All right. So my first win of the week goes to a father-son duo from out in the Fargo area. Kelly and Scott Jacobson. They had quite a weekend this past weekend. But they put on quite the show on Sunday night over at the Buffalo River Speedway. Quite a fun race to watch between those two dueling it out for the win, but it was Kelly Jacobson who took home the victory on Sunday night over his dad, Scott Jacobson, over at the Buffalo River Speedway. So that's my first one of the week, father-son duo right there. And then my second win of the week, if I can do two, I am going to do a father-daughter duo because to start out their season, they had a rough start to the season. Kelly and Carly Horner, they both had just a terrible way to start their 2023 season. Kelly had an engine problem in the hobby stock feature at the Dakotah Speedway. Carly got caught up in some carnage in that hobby stock feature. They both DNF'd, both went home just sad and dejected. I saw them after the races. They packed up and went home immediately as soon as they could. Well, this past Friday at Dakotah Speedway, I believe they started on the front row and they hung out in the top 5 the entire feature. What a great rebound for those two. Kelly finished 2nd, Carly finished 5th, if my memory serves me correctly. And just a nice rebound for those two. It's not quite a physical win, but considering they DNF'd their first week out and came back to finish top 5, that's pretty darn awesome in my book. So nice rebound for Carly and Kelly Horner out of the Dakotah Speedway.
Very good couple of wins. I like those both. Awesome. Jessup or John, do you want to go next?
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'm gonna go next then. So my first win of the week goes to the Johnson brothers over in Fargo area. So we had Sean Johnson picking up the win on Friday over at the Red River Valley Speedway. Like Mason had mentioned, Sean started pretty far back in the field himself when he ended up picking up that win. So started back in that 16th position to win on Friday night. Also the first time he's won as a dad, which is pretty cool as well. Back from the offseason when him and his wife had a little one. So that's pretty cool to see. And then his brother Dylan, unfortunately he wasn't able to start the feature on Friday night, but Dylan rebounded on Sunday, led for a while in the feature over at the Buffalo River Speedway and ended up 3rd. So the Johnson brothers had a pretty good start to their season here for 2023. My other win of the week, I'm going to have 2 of them here. The other win of the week goes over to the Wolverine, Justin Vogel. Justin rebounded after breaking his car pretty bad over in Granite City last week Sunday, or I should say the opener a couple weeks ago. over there and ended up picking up basically a clean sweep this past weekend with all of his feature wins. So Justin had a very nice weekend over there in Minnesota as he gets prepared now for the Street Stock Tour that is starting this weekend over in Viking. So Justin will be hot and heavy on that tour again here for the 2023 season.
Awesome. Well, good couple wins. Yeah, I agree. Justin is riding the hot streak going into the Street Stock Tour, and that's probably the best time to do that. And so he's looking tough to beat. So be interesting to see how he performs in those first couple of tour races. Jessup, go ahead.
No, you go. I'm going to close the segment out today.
All righty, sounds good. So my first win, kind of touched on him in the results a little bit, but I want to give a shout out to Cody Mackhart, the number 7 NX Legend driver. Like I said, at Red River Valley, led a good chunk of that race for a while until kind of cautions kind of got everyone caught up to him and kind of got shuffled back a little bit. Finished, I still think, top 5 at Red River Valley, but won the feature over at Buffalo River, and that's a big win because he started deep in the field. He started 15th and moved up through the field and got the win. So that was his first career win. So big congrats out to Cody Mackhart and number 7. And then my other win, kind of an underrated win, but kind of wanted to give a small shout out to Andrew Jokum in the stock cars because we had a incident right at the start of that feature race where Kelly Jacobson spun out, basically right as they took the green flag. And they were probably going to call the caution on Kelly Jacobson. And Andrew actually stopped and talked to one of the officials and took blame for the caution, which you don't see that too often. So big show of sportsmanship by Andrew Jokum to take blame and go to the back of the pack for starting that race. And so, yeah, so those are my 2 wins. I have more, but I'll let Jess have his time in the limelight.
Well, Mason, those aren't bad, but you know what? I'm going to spread the love to a lot of people here. So my John and my wife both think I'm going to say Donnie Schatz, even though Donnie Schatz did have an amazing weekend. He's back on the winning streak. He swept the weekend for the World of Outlaws, and it's good to see that Donnie is out, getting the fire back in him. Yeah, so that's pretty cool to see. Now, I'm going to go with another sprint car person here. I'm going to say win of the week. It goes to one Mark Dobmeyer. First race back from that very scary fire accident. Going +6, 7th to 1st at River Cities to pick up the opening night. Wayne Anderson qualifier for him. So that's pretty cool. John, just relax. I was going to say Casey Usatis, as I have him up here. He's got 2 wins. Actually, he had a really great weekend. Brown County win, Devil's Lake win, and a nice second place finish to only Tucker Peterson, who is a very strong driver over at the Buffalo River Speedway. So, Casey, good job this weekend. Another stock car guy. We're going to stay with the full body. Let's go with Joe Flory. After an early race wreck up in Minot, he drives through the field and gets a very nice win up over there. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to end it right here with someone you guys probably don't really follow. We're going to go over to Ogilvy. And this is a next generation driver picking up a very big win. And I say very big win because he held off some of the best of the business. He held off a hard-charging Shane Sabraski, a track-owning Clayton Wegeman. Well, maybe Clayton doesn't own it, but the family does. But how about a Brady Utanen?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty dang impressive to get a nice win over there over at the Big O. I think you're going to see a lot of good things coming in that kid's future. Keep an eye on that ride all summer because if Saturday gave us anything to witness, it's going to be a fun season to follow.
Agreed, especially with the modified rookies.
Yep.
If Jessup can give 4 wins of the week.
I'm not done.
More?
I can continue on. Let's give one a shout out to Granite City Speedway for, I think, a more moral victory here. They, after a really tough opening weekend, they put a lot of time, a lot of effort in on that track, and I think it was a lot better this week.
I don't know.
And
Dennis Zek would not agree with you. He likes it rough.
maybe so, but I think they did a pretty good job this week trying to get that track work back into shape. So there's all those people. Becca, did you want to start rattling off people, or Mason, do you want me to just finish it right there?
We'll give Becca
I have to
one
give-
more.
Mason, do you have one more too?
I have like 3 more, but
I have like 3 more as well. I have to give a shout
my
out as well
God.
to Stan Thompson for helping Alex Thompson finish 4th on Friday night at Dacotah Speedway.
Oh God.
go ahead, Becca.
So another win of the week would go to Billy Workman Jr. because he was literally just up here just to help some of the younger legend drivers up here in the North Dakota area. Had no intention at all to race at all, and kind of hopped into Michael King's backup car at the very last second. Never raced that car, never been to Dacotah Speedway, never seen Dacotah Speedway. Got behind the wheel and put on quite a show in that INEX Legend feature and walked away with the victory. So that was pretty darn impressive. He gets my 3rd win of the week. Mason, do you want to give one other one?
So I'll close it with one more, and I will give a shout out to the Nichols Motorsports team. Mike scored a good win over at the I-94 Speedway on Friday night. His younger brother, Tommy, scored the win over at Miller Central. That's his 2nd win there, so he's got Miller Central pretty well figured out. And Tommy looked like he was going to be the car to beat on Sunday at Casino, won his heat and was leading a good majority of that feature. And Mike was coming through the field as well, came up a little bit short on sweeping the weekend for Nichols Motorsports, but they had a very stellar weekend. And so kudos out to the Nichols Motorsports team. And the last thing I wanted to bring up, which I think is really cool, is if any of you out there are familiar with the old ALH Speedway, which was located in Morden, Manitoba, before basically around the COVID time frame, that Speedway closed down, obviously, because Canada was a little bit more stricter on guidelines than the United States were. But so they shut down since then. They haven't really opened since that point. But I stumbled upon a Facebook page, Dead Horse Creek Speedway, which is reopening as the former ALH Speedway, which I think is really cool to see a track kind of resurrecting itself. And they're going to be having several events this summer. I'm going to bring up their page here real quick. So it looks like they have a couple of double headers, one in July, the Watermelon Cup, July 7th and 8th, and then the King of the Corn, August 25th and 26th. So they're doing a lot of great work up there. It looks like they have, for classes, they're calling it the Dead Horse Stocks, which I kind of like that. So it's kind of a mix of pure stocks, street stocks, super stocks, and IMCA hobby stocks. And according to this, you have to comply to your rules package of whatever car you're bringing. So kind of basically your pure stock, hobby stock type class. They're going to be running also WISSOTA Midwest mods, WISSOTA modifieds, and late models as well. It looks like they have a couple stipulations on the events for late models. And so go and like that Facebook page, give them some support, give them some support so that way they can have a big event when they reopen. I want to say they might be having a couple more events beyond that, but at least it's cool to see that they're reopening. You don't see that nowadays too often, a track reopening after being dormant for a couple of years. It's really tough to do in this day and age. And so wanted to give a shout out to them as well. Any other closing thoughts or any rumors we have before we close episode 13? All righty. So with that, that will do it for episode 13, a very full episode of racing. Be sure to like, comment, and share the Track Packers podcast. Like our Facebook page. Be sure to like the videos, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. If you're a podcast listener, please subscribe on Spotify, Google, and Apple. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, and also Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro. And this is a busy weekend. We hope to see you out there in some capacity, packing the track.